Hello and welcome to the Community Indie Showcase Extra. Today I'm interviewing the awesome solo dev Tomas Sala, the creator of both Falconeer and Bulwark Falconeer Chronicles. How are you doing today, Thomas?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm a bit tired.
Yes, yes, indeed, indeed.
But no, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long process, but again, the life of a solo developer is not an easy one, and I'm sure you can attest to that because you've been doing it pretty much solid since the release of Falconeer.
Yeah, which is, and then the development before that. I think now I've been a solo dev for 6, 7 years. I don't know.
Yeah,
2017, 2018.
yeah,
Shit,
at
time
least.
flies. Holy shit.
Yes.
So yeah, as long as you're surviving, you're doing well, I guess.
Oh, most
That's the
definitely.
trick.
Most definitely. We had the pleasure actually. I was looking back at our previous showcases, and our very first showcase, we had you on as well, introducing the Falconeer, believe it or not, when that
Oh
released.
yeah,
Yeah,
that must be ages 2020. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it was great to have you on for that, and it's great again to have you back to talk about the future of Bulwark and of course your newest release, Bulwark Falconeer Chronicles. I had the pleasure of reviewing the game and playing it for copious amounts of hours. I come into this as not the biggest city builder in terms of how good I am at them. I'm a terrible city builder. My cities usually fall to ruins and get poisoned and die and everything. But this is a whole different concept when we come into Bulwark because it is the possibilities are endless, but it's also I would think it's a much easier city builder to get into, a much more relaxing experience for me personally. I found Bulwark to be very entertaining, very therapeutic, as it were, in a sense, because it was kind of you've got this beautiful snap to grid system of how you can kind of build and create these cities, and you can kind of expand where you want, and then you've got the factions on top of it as well. It was just a much more interesting experience than I have played in any city builder I've played. So, how did you come up with the idea of turning the Falconeer universe into essentially a faction based city builder?
Well, so when I did the Falconeer, it went pretty well, quite well. But it's fairly a niche game.
Yeah,
It's a sort of 90s stick flyer. The gameplay itself was fun for people that remember that age of Crimson Skies, and modern people, modern gamers, they play with a mouse, or they play anything that flies is just an extension of being an FPS, I guess. Uh, so I thought, well, what's good about the Falconeer? And what was good was the world. So the world building, people enjoyed in being there. So I thought, okay, I have to keep that. There's some gold there. That's definitely the best thing about the game. And then at the kitchen table, my partner, the mother of my children, she asked, what did you enjoy most from making the Falconeer? And it was making all the cool towns in the game. That was just relaxing. For people who ask me, how do you make all this content? Most of it, all the stuff I enjoy making is what I do to relax,
yeah,
and then making the game is actually all the work around it. So that most of that was just making the world come alive, doing all the world building. That was most enjoyable. So the idea was to focus on that, and then she said, because she's not a gamer, she said, "Wow, then you have to turn your gamers into you," which is a really weird way of looking at it. But if you enjoy, instead of saying, "Fun, oh well, I'll make a city builder because I enjoy making the cities," it becomes make a city builder that lets people build as you create, as I create.
yeah,
So I create very chaotically and not very organized, and very intuitively without, I don't do sketches, I don't sketch any of my art, I don't do concept art. I just start, and then something happens. So for me, that was the basis for Bulwark, is to take that experience, which is sort of like watching Bob Ross,
yeah,
and put that in a city builder in this epically slightly dark and hardcore world, um, and make it something that's just about having fun building something, and it takes you back to those old sensations where you play a strategy game where and you're just enjoying making the castle and not having to grind to win. So I don't want to make grindy games anymore. I think the industry's sort of too focused on that because it makes a lot of money
Yeah.
instead of I want to go back to simpler wonders. Just the awe of having built something cool. But then I don't want to didn't want to do anything aesthetic, so I needed to add a little bit of combat, a little bit of strategy, a little bit of a resource system, and it's so weird in that sense that's not. We have chill builders, but they're extremely chill, and this is sort of chill. It's very low stakes in a
Yeah.
sense,
Yeah.
and that makes it that you get to enjoy the creativity again. So that is that's how people respond to it. If you go on Steam and read the user reviews, it's like there's people that don't get it. They just want to kill and win,
Yeah.
uh, and which you can do in the game because it is a proper sandbox. But it's not entirely. You're sort of missing the point. If
Yeah.
you go out and try to beat the game, I specifically tried to make a game that doesn't need or want to be beat. But if you just surrender to people are enjoying the hell out of it, it's what you said. It's for people that don't want that micromanaged 16 screens, 14 resource flows,
Yeah.
12
Yeah.
resources at the top of your screen, 15 units to manage, but still want that enjoyment of having built something.
Yeah.
I think that's what I wanted to do with Bulwark. And what came out it's kind of weird in a sense. So, but that's me. If my goal is to make games that are original and weird and sort of unique in a way, then I'm quite proud of it. Having 2 for 2.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I have to make something super conventional as a third game, but I don't think I can do that.
Oh, you never know. You never know. You've done it, like you say,
You
two
never
for
know.
two
You
for
never
so
know. You
far.
never know. How do you call it? The chimney's got to smoke, eh?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
gotta eat.
Exactly. No, I mean, I just found it very, like, the only thing that was quite stressful was when I ended up getting one faction really far along and I had like so many people from one faction and the other ones were just kind of just a little bit, and I was like, I'm going to end up having a full scale war here and I don't need it.
Well, that's a nice segue to the next update because I saw a lot of people doing that, and then suddenly because I like in my games they're like me, they're a bit chaotic, so they're chill, meditative until there aren't, and then it's like oh my god, combat stuff. I like to throw a little bit of that in, not too much. It's not an RTS, but I figured that out that people need a few more tools to manage that.
Yeah.
That makes it keep so. And there wasn't any diplomacy in the game. So a new update that's coming like next week, maybe. When I'm not really fast. I just finished it. It's in QA. Need some localization. It introduces some diplomatic events. It's called Trade, Tribute, and Splinters, and that should help you. When you get in, just give them some money, and they'll shut the fuck up to calm everybody. Um, or it adds diplomacy events for them to surrender if you're at war. Instead of having to kill them, they'll go halfway there. They'll go, oh, we'll be your client state. Don't hurt us anymore. A little bit of that, and it's not like heavy diplomacy, but again, it's always there to make you feel alive
Yeah.
and to make the game have that story. So there's an extra set of events now. That means there had to be like a currency that's in this new update as well, which you can do. It gives you a little bit of guidance. People do love to say, oh, you have to spend this much, or if you don't do this, you get this amount of currency. So there's a little bit of currency in there. The minus was just to repair your ship and buy extractors, which was the number one question. How do I get more extractors? Fixed it. You can now just buy them by grinding this currency, just a tiny bit of grind. So that's all coming with new ships and a literal fuck ton of improvements. Just because at the end of the day, making a game is easier than making a good tutorial.
Yeah.
Because
I want to touch on that actually whilst you mentioned tutorial, because I thought it was a really good, straight to the point, very easy, very dynamic tutorial. I liked the way that you introduced it, and then of course I liked obviously the other actor that you had involved that
Chris
continued
Lines,
that. Yeah, it was a fantastic little intro. To be fair, I thought it didn't. I think the problem with a lot of big games these days is that the tutorial outstays its welcome. It feels like you're doing the tutorial for like the first opening 3 hours of the game, whereas with Bulwark, It was nice. It kind of did okay, now you build this, and now you build this, and this is what you do for this. And it was
Yeah.
all very straight to the point, but very easy to follow. And it was just a nice introduction to the game. And then, of course, you said, okay, and now off you go, enjoy.
Well,
And that was it.
that's the
Yeah.
idea. But I think people, one of the things, and I speak that out, is that one of the ways people need to, we make money as game developers and publishers is to make it really easy to hop from game to game.
Yeah.
Because if you're stuck in your live service, Battlefield or
Oh, yeah.
Fortnite, you want to play something else, everybody has to be sort of the same, because then you can hop in and there's no friction. Uh, and we've gotten really good at it because that makes the most money, but that makes all the games all more or less the same.
Yeah.
So with Bulwark, I thought it was it's I hate making tutorials. It's the most boring as shit on earth. Really, it's horrific. But you have to do it, and then you let people go, and then I realized it's got 81% on Steam, so most people figure it out.
Yeah.
But for some people, they need just a little bit more hand holding, or there's so many new ideas in there. That stuff never stops coming for me. That they just get very stressed because they expect to make a mistake.
Yeah.
And and that still happens. People come on and say, I don't know how it works. I don't know what anything means. It's so different, and they get completely stressed. But there's always there's very little fail state until later on.
Yeah.
So in this new update, I try to do a lot of things by design, by not having to do the tutorial, but adding little indicators. Because one of the mechanics people missed is that if you expand your city, naturally it unlocks more content.
Yeah.
But if you go out flying around and you don't have a big city, you're not going to see a lot of content and feel the game's very empty, which is not actually, there's like 46 different commanders and captains to unlock, but you need to build to do it. So that's more properly signposted. Just things to get people, get the game to click,
Yeah.
so they can experience it fully and not go, I don't know how this works. But yeah, so this is the new update. It adds a lot of stuff, and it improves on a lot of things. And it's just the first of a year's worth of updates. So just only getting started.
Nice, nice. So, when you mentioned a year's worth of updates, then what kind of updates do you plan for Bulwark?
Well, so the first of that is, we're calling it DLC, but it's named free updates mostly. There'll
Okay.
be some paid stuff along the way, because again, gotta eat, and it's also to support development. Um, but most of it, so the second one is going to be, because I do like a bit of war. So the second one is
Yes.
going to focus on ship to ship warfare,
Nice.
which is I enjoy looking at. So it's war in Bulwark is also just a visual experience rather than your units fight it out. But there's no way to use your battleships which you get properly in anyone you attack. And with the update which is coming now, the first one, that's adding a little bit more cost to war. So you can't freely repair all your fleets. You have to pay for that. So war becomes quite a lot harder to do. So the next updates adds the ability to command your surface ships independently of your surveyor. So if you've
Nice.
played the game, that suddenly goes, oh, that's a big one.
Yeah.
And it will add new war events like blockades. Like there's a fleet in this blockading your trading, or when you try to attack a settlement, they'll spawn little fortresses around it. So the world will be a little bit more dynamic. So that's the second one. It's called Naval Command for now. That's supposed to come in May, but I am taking a holiday, so
Yeah.
it might be officially coming a few weeks later. But these things come out at about at least a cadence of every 6 weeks or something. After that, there's a bunch of just focus expanding the content for building. That's what it's about. So there's a bunch of updates that add new buildings to build, new styles, um, new special buildings called businesses in this. So just more content to unlock to the game. Then there's a little. Hopefully we're talking probably post summer now. There'll be some experiments with narrative updates, something that adds a little story in the world to unlock, which
Nice.
of course we also with new stuff to build with. So having to do with electricity. Ooh. And farming electricity. If you played the Falconeer, that sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
So you'll get a little. And then afterwards, there'll be a big faction DLC. But I haven't figured out. That'll be the freebooters, which are missing from the game mostly, which was a faction in the Falconeer that sort of got wiped out.
Yes.
But they're organic. They have organic technology, and I haven't been able how to figure out how I don't want to do living coral buildings, like coral and weird fucking organic. So that is going to be the big main, add an entire faction to the game, DLC type. And I think by that point we'll be at the end of this year. And it's also a matter, we with Wired, we launched the game. It launched quite well, it beat expectations for a solo dev game. That's incredibly hard at the moment if you're not, have the ridiculous meme. If you're not mana lords, for the rest of us lesser gods. It's so we're super stoked on, but 20,000 people came on and commented at what they wanted and needed from the game. So we had a roadmap. I decided with the publisher we'll do this, and I said, a day after lunch, I said, okay, we'll have to do everything differently. This has to go be the first two. We need to move this up. This needs to change. This is just what people are telling us. Um, and so it will change over this is now how it's been planned out. I think as the game gets further along, especially these first two ones are really big. They change the functionality of the game. They're just incorporating a lot of core feedback to what needs to be done. At some point, the game will reach a different cadence, and it'll be interesting to see what people want then. So after that, I don't know. I'm keeping it open. Um, there's lots to do. Everybody's coming with fantastic ideas what they want, and most of it they just want more. Well, so that'll be there,
That's
but
good.
we'll have to see in December-ish. I think when this roadmap is sort of complete, or even maybe beginning of next year. So we'll see.
Nice,
Well,
nice.
after that, we're gonna make an anime. So that's the
Oh,
other.
oh, that's very good. I think I've seen that actually.
Yeah.
I saw that teased.
Well, I've so it's. I first want to finish up this roadmap,
Yeah,
at least the first 12 months, and then have a little bit more space, uh, and then seek funding and get a storyboard. I'm writing for it. I think it's a reasonable goal within animation becoming more and more affordable to make a pilot for this. There's interesting stories in this world. Uh, and I've done some animation in the past. I don't want to do it myself, so I'm engaging with. I've already had some talks with people in LA a couple of years ago and stuff. So slowly, we're sort of that's a quite serious thing to do. But
yeah.
success of Bulwark is likely going to enable to do that. So
That's it's awesome to hear. It's awesome to hear. It's I've got another friend actually that's reversing what you're doing. So you're going game into animation. They've started with animation going into games, so they're doing the reverse trend. That's Everborn.
oh yeah,
They only got a little platformer at the moment, but it's a work in progress, and it's awesome to see them getting into solo development for the first time. So um, back to your game though, and one thing I love, and it's something that you've got unique to you, is the art style and the lack thereof textures. But it's awesome because the world in itself is beautiful in its own way. I like the way it's designed. I like the way it looks. It is completely unique when comparing it to anything else in this space. I think we touched on this a few years back, but what kind of drives you to do that? I know it's not specifically just down to the fact that you dislike doing so many textures, but of course, I think you enjoy doing that kind of art style as well.
I think it's a dual thing. So I've done textures in the past. When I used to do modding for the people for I did the moon path for Elsewhere mods for Skyrim, which
Yes.
were fairly popular back in the day. And those were fully textured, normal mapped, sculpted, sort of the regular production process for games. So I do enjoy that. It's been a while since I've done it, but um, I did this because I just a fancy caught me. I'd like to do a game without textures, and I started working that and discovering how shaders work. And in the end, it comes down to creative limitations. That's I think the proper term. That if you want to find original, if you I get bored really easily. So like, I'm like a goldfish. So I need to, and the thing that doesn't make me bored is discovering something new that
Yeah.
excites me. So in order to finish something, I need to make it a journey of discovery. That's why I can't copy existing building games and make a fuck ton of money because I'll be bored halfway during development. Oh, let's find the best game that has the best inventory system. So it's I can't do that. Is my that's why I'll never be rich. It's I can't fucking do it. Um, so, but as long as I creating finding new discoveries, they'll keep exciting me. I can string those along into a game. That's basically what I do. So with that art style, saying I can't use textures forces me to find new ways of doing things. Using math and what's called shaders, which is a very simple. It's basically doing the formula, saying, well, I want a color gradient. Let's say there's a lot of volumetrics going on, but that's nothing more than saying anything close to the surface is slightly opaque blue, and everything above the water up to like 50 meters is slightly less blue. But if you look at it as a viewer, that looks like there's a blue fog coming up. There's no I That's just a line of code in a sense, you know and that excites me. That, oh, can I make that wavy? And then if I make that fog that's coming up in the distance different color, because that's what happens in if you look at mountains, they become more blue. So I'll get excited about that. Oh, and then can I make it that the colors on the side of the sky are a different fog, going up than the colors in the distance. Oh yeah, and behind me, and I can link that to the sun, and everything becomes an exciting discovery. Just because I said I can't use the out of the box tools, otherwise you just clickety clack, boom, and it looks like everything else.
Yeah.
So, uh, and it turns out if you do everything and you keep to those rules, everything you do sort of starts to fit together. So like there's lots of sailing ships. I made that because one day I woke up and I want to see if I can make sails go in the right direction to the wind in a shader by making them bellow and turn and angle to the wind. I like sailing a little bit, not on battleship side, but it'd be fun to do. I did it, and then I thought, I did it using my rules, so I didn't have any textures. I said, I can just chuck this in the Falconeer, can I? Click. And then, okay, now I have to game design boats in there. And that's how your game grows. That's a new discovery. Oh, boats have to go up the waves. That's cool to make. So everything is just me going off on little excursions. And afterwards, like, how can I use this to make a game? And then chucking it in. So all my games are wonderfully weird experimental journeys to get somewhere that people take along with me. And there's lots of cutting of stuff. That's my professional throwing stuff away that doesn't work. But by having these weird rules or limitations, and especially if you work by yourself, it gives you a solid framework that makes every weird, how do you call it, detour is suddenly part of the journey because it all fits to the same rules. Visually, it fits together. And so that's why I could take some of the world of the Falconeer and make a new game and enhance the style a little bit. It's just the same. It still has the same rules, so it
Yeah.
still looks compatible. And if I'll make a future game, I can still use all that and make more because I'm building on the foundations. So that's a very long answer to that, but that's how why I put a polisher of textures for fun under my. It's just a fun thing, but it's a fantastic creative shortcut.
Awesome. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. And you mentioned future games. I think we've all had a chance to potentially see the previous interview you did there, where you spoke about the Falconeer being a trilogy of games. And what are your thoughts on that then? What are your potential plans in the year so far?
Well, it's so I've been walking around with this idea to do a boating game in this world as a prequel because it would wrap. I would still keep going in this world likely, but would wrap this cycle of games nicely. Is to have a prequel where you could see because the world of Falconeer started to fall down. Some people call it post-apocalyptic, which is sort of right. It's just not Earth, but it's a society that has to deal with living in an ocean world that didn't used to be an ocean world.
Like Waterworld.
Sort of like Waterworld. Yeah, people compared it to that. So I want to show the world as it was when it was all good and nice, and that
Ah,
there were trees on the island, and people were trading and sailing and whatever. So I thought, okay, I want to make a game about a ship captain, and he's like a tower. How do you call it? A tugboat captain, or a salvager, or someone who pilots boats up the river. So and you take on jobs, and as you do, you figure out that the jobs are becoming perhaps more materialistic, and something is in the air, something is brewing, and by the jobs you take, you can sort of make little acts of resistance happen. So you fail this job, you might fail that, or you take the other job, and a big battleship won't be on time for the battle. You figure out that small acts of resistance can shape the future, which is the future of the Falconeer and Bulwark. So that's I thought that'd be a nice game to make, and it's a more human scaled, fits with my ambitions to make an animation. So something where it's more an adventure where you're talking to the cook in the galley, or the barkeep of the tavern to hear the latest gossips. More like such a game rather than the grand games which both Bulwark and the Falconeer are. So, it's an interesting how do you call it? Um, Interesting journey.
Yeah.
I might make a little, how do you call it, palette cleanser game in between, but that's the end goal.
Yeah, that sounds really good. So would that you mentioned it potentially being a prequel then to Falconeer
Yeah,
before the world went down? Would the story potentially entail then kind of seeing the world in that state of almost collapse near the end of whatever story you come up to,
I,
or
I don't depends if it's necessary for the story.
yeah,
If you can just get a whiff of it, okay, so they're building something, and that's the weapon that destroys whatever it is,
yeah,
and there's stargates in the Falconeer, so it's got to have something to do with that. But you get a whiff of what's going to come. It's sometimes it's the foreboding is better than showing.
yeah,
If you just sense that, because you already know the tragedy that's going to befall, and how long it's taking people, and how hard it is to have a stable society after what's going to happen. So I don't know if I need to show it. It's and I like that I fucked around with that with Bulwark, which some people really seem to like. Is that um, the world feels really alive, but I'm never giving you an actual narrative in Bulwark.
yeah,
I'm just stating it as fact that these people are this and these people are such, and this is why they hate each other. I just give little hints. Um, but it feels really solid because you can read or you can play that history in the Falconeer. So I like that. Maybe I'll make it in the first game. It's called Ancient Waves. Uh, that you'll just get enough of a sense that if you've played any of these two games, you know the tragedy that's about to befall.
yeah,
That makes it even more bittersweet. Working to so I like that if you take them as a whole, even if you've not played them, they imbue that sense. Each game adds depth the other one draws from, even if you don't play him. Somehow that's sort of a thing that happens. I don't. Yeah, I guess because it's just everything makes sense, and you feel that sense of quality. I guess as a player or reader or a viewer.
yeah,
I hope.
definitely. It's very, very interesting that you would go down that route. I didn't think it would be a prequel, but it sounds awesome to hear that. And I like how we've went from A to essentially ground being a builder, although you have your airship flying around, and then going into the sea now as well and seeing it from the sea perspective. I liked how we're kind of getting multiple angles of it as well, multiple angles of the story. That would be awesome.
If I can get it done, it'll be. I think as a trilogy or a set of games, there'll be a unique um, gaming sequence. I don't think without each having a completely warped different genre,
Yeah,
but they're all telling. It'd be interesting. It is something to achieve to have those three games and be together in a sense. And I don't care if I'll lose so many people that will never try all three games because they're so fucked up, weird, and specific, and not their genre. But to know that it can exist, where you can tell this story in three completely different ways. Uh, I don't know. I like that as a goal.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's one thing I love about indie games and indie developers specifically is the creativity and the freedom of creativity that you have as an independent developer. and you don't have 7, 8, 9 people telling you about the ideas and what they think and what they would do, and kind of trying to go over the top and do something else. And ultimately, the entire decision, because you're a solo developer, the entire decision and creative process and everything like that is solely yours to make. Of course, you get feedback from your fans, and especially beforehand, when you were first creating the Falconeer, you didn't have the feedback of many people until it released, and then you got more feedback.
Oh
um,
yeah,
but
which was a handicap. Let's
yeah,
at,
yeah, most definitely, most definitely. But yeah, the creativity, that this is the one thing I love about indies, specifically the smaller ones as well. As much as I enjoy the what you class as the triple I scene now, the big indies, the small solo devs or 2 or 3 man teams. It's awesome to see the creativity in the games that come out of themselves, because they are unique, and I think we are seeing more and more unique games, and Falconeer and Bulwark are extremely unique games, and we hadn't seen with the Falconeer, we hadn't seen anything quite that way since, as you mentioned, many years ago, with that
yeah.
very very classic kind of feel to it. But Bulwark in itself, again, a very unique idea that in the indie world I don't think has been done in terms of the type of city builder that it is. But in general, I don't think it has been done anyway. Um, so yeah, it is very creative. I enjoy it. What is the creative process something that just keeps you going, as well?
Uh, well, the desperation to make a living and not have to get an actual job is certainly important.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is, and that's a bitter truth. I can never go back to a studio,
yeah,
or at any. I am severely deformed and damaged. So there's you keep going because I'm 47. I don't think there's anything else I can do at this quality level in a reasonable time scale.
yeah,
So I'm stuck making games, but I enjoy it. I don't enjoy releasing games particularly well. It's always a lot of stress, lots of opinions, especially if you make things that weird, people don't get it, or everything gets compared to bigger titles. And so it takes this one went fairly well, so that's nice to experience that one for a change. But still, it's not an enjoyable process. But it's I think if you stop if this is in your blood, and I kid about it, but the need to create is also it's also a sort of medication for yourself.
yeah.
It keeps you. I think the moment I do, I'll either go full mental or I'll die if I stop doing that. So I need to be doing. It's just a grip on the world in a sense. So I'll be creating for a long time. Might be animation, might be games, or some days I go, I know I'll try to. I need to write stories in this world better. That is a challenge for me to grow into. So there's plenty to do as long as you're busy, in that creative process. Yeah, that is the ultimate drive.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, it's like I say, it's great to see you continue to succeed. I'm very happy that following Falconeer, you got a chance to continue that, and obviously that was successful enough to continue and make the Bulwark, which is then successful enough now to continue and think about the future and adding updates and another title, and even now an anime, which would be amazing to see as well. I would be very interested to see an anime in the Bulwark universe. As you mentioned, the stories and the characters and the factions and all of the different creatures and airships and things, everything you could possibly involve in an anime would be very unique. I think for an anime to succeed, you would have a lot of options.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. And again, because I'll still be bootstrapping that. It'll be something minimal, likely, or something not where you have to be very careful what you do. I like that. The challenge of that is interesting. Is to
Yeah,
create something that takes the design thinking of Bulwark and the Falconeer into an anime. Sort of, I'm curious to see how that works. So, but yeah, interesting.
most definitely, most definitely. But Thomas, it's been absolutely a pleasure speaking to you once more. Getting to talk to you about Bulwark and the awesome updates coming up to the Bulwark. Of course, we saw your awesome trailer in the showcase as well. And it's going to be interesting to see the future of yourself and the Falconeer universe. But if you don't mind, let people know, of course, where they can find you and where they can pick up Bulwark Falconeer Chronicles.
I am at Falconeer Dev on Twitter, on X, or whatever you call it. Still there. The Bulwark Falconeer Chronicles out on Steam. There's a demo. If you go, what the fuck's this guy talking about? Try out the demo. It's a small demo, but go try it out. It's on Steam, it's on Xbox, and it's on PlayStation. And I personally think the console versions might be the highest rated ones, going by user reviews. So try those.
Definitely indeed. Thank you again, Thomas. It's been an absolute blast, and hope you have an awesome evening. And to the rest of our viewers, of course, thank you for watching once more. I hope you have an awesome evening as well, and see you all later. Goodbye.